everyone. Welcome to This Old Arcade. I'm Tim. Today we're looking at our Asteroids Deluxe cabinet here. I've got a customer's board set and monitors from a Cabaret Asteroids Deluxe. There was a bad bridge rectifier on the monitor here. And then there was a problem with the power supply in the plus minus sense circuit. These two resistors were blown here from that sense circuit being overloaded. On these Atari games, the voltage goes out to the motherboard and it loops back to the sense. Same thing on the ground, out and back, and depending on the resistance between these points, this circuit here ups the current to try to keep that voltage level constant. So we're testing out our customer's power supply. And this is my motherboard here. His motherboard, the edge connector is all burned and ruined, so we're going to replace that edge on the board and then test it out with this setup here. So right now I'm reading 5.09 volts on the board on my test points there. We're going to take our probes here and we're going to look at the voltage on the return. It's pins 2 and 3 on J7. Pin 2 should be negative. And pin 3 should be positive. So my return's 5.15, and then output here, if I can reach it here, pins 1 and 6. Wow, it's putting out 5.35 volts on the output. So there's definitely a voltage drop in that harness. Let's power the game down. Oh, one more thing I want to show you here. The vertical and horizontal size on these is actually on the motherboard for the X and the Y. So there's two little pots here. This is my X gain control, and then here's my Y gain. So it was smaller because I had it. It sets up for my monitor here. We're going to set up his motherboard to his monitor once we're done. So let's power this down. We're going to check some resistances here. Get my red lead. On these scope meters, the red lead isn't used for voltage or scope measurements. Let's see here. So according to my schematic, pin 5 and 6 is 5 volt regulated, and pin 3 is the sense return. So actually, let me just pull this off here, and we should get from pin 6 to pin 3, that should be our total resistance there. It's not much. 0.3 ohm, 0.4 ohm. There's my 0 when I short the lead. So the total resistance on the ground side should be pin 1 and 4 to pin 2. So I'll just use pin 1 to pin 2. 0.1 ohm, 0.2 ohm, 0.3. So there is some resistance there. Let's go to my ground on the motherboard. There's a little bit of resistance there. And we'll do the positive side here up to my test point. I'm not reading much there. There is a way that you can defeat this plus minus sense circuit and avoid some of these problems. On the back side here, if you jumper pins 1 and 2 and pins 3 and 6, that'll effectively give your loop back right there on the connector, and it won't depend on having good connections here on this edge, this 44 pin edge connector. So, all right, let's go inside and let's install that edge connector, and we'll see how well that works. All right, so we're getting set up here. We've got the customer's motherboard here. You can see the edge connector here. It is pretty bad. Somebody did a repair here, and it's just really, you're going to have a lot of problems with resistance there. You look at the other side, and you can see there's even there's a trace here where it's just kind of lifted up. So we're going to extend onto here and fix that up. First, I'm going to burnish this with a pencil eraser so it'll the flux will hold a little bit better when I solder to that. This used to be what I would normally do when I would come up with these connector problems. I'd just burnish these with a pencil eraser. And it looks like somebody at some point had flowed solder over here, which it may work for a little bit, but it causes more trouble in the long run. It pushes out the pins on your harness connector. This is going to be fun. I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do on that one. I think this is why some manufacturers in the early 80s actually went away from the edge connectors, like the Bally MCR system, just to avoid stuff like this, because Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Galaga notoriously had edge connector problems, so you can see I kind of polished that up there a little bit. So what we got here, let's see if I can find my receipt here. This is this little kit here. It's the Pac-Man. Believe I got this from 2bit.com. It's a two-part thing where you've got your edge connector replace, and then you've got this side here that you put on the PC board. So how this works is you basically just break it like that. This one here, you'd cut your wiring harness and you solder each wire to these connectors here. Then that's your new female side for that 44 pin, which goes on to the gain board. This side here, if you look closely, it's got these, they're like header pins. You slip that over the end and you line your pins up, then you solder each pin on front and back. The other thing you have to do on this is on this side here, you see they only solder 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. You have to go through and solder each of those on each side, so they don't do all that work for you. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start out by doing this. We're going to test this in my cabinet and then see how well that works in the customer's Cabaret cabinet. And we've got the rest of this connector here if we need to go nuclear and replace his harness side on the connector. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to finish soldering these on here. So I can get closer in here. Yeah. Like I always say, it's hard doing these videos when you don't have any help running a camera. Waiting for my iron to warm up here. This is really a good idea to do this on these older games. It can prevent damage to the board, damage to the power supplies. if you have good connections and you're running a game the way it was designed, most of the time you're going to be okay. I don't always like the idea of hacking a harness and putting in a switching power supply. Side's good. Do the other. I tell you, this is really nice doing this sitting at a table. I've only ever been able to do these on a location, huddled behind a machine where it's very dark. Not very conducive for seeing what you're doing. And the last pen. All right. So the connector here on the Asteroids Deluxe board is pinned, or it's keyed. When I get this on, I may take a hacksaw and cut a key in there. I wonder if I should do that first. It'd probably be a lot easier if I cut a key in there first. So I'm going to take a break real quick, go grab my hacksaw, and we'll cut a key in there so somebody doesn't plug that connector on backwards. All right, so I cheated. I went next door and used the bandsaw to cut my little key here, and of course I went right out to verify that it would fit in the harness on my cabinet, and there is no key in the harness. So, but it's nice to be you know, accurate-wise detail with what the original was. But that's kind of what it'll look like with all these pins soldered and a key. I don't know, some harnesses may have a key. I don't know. We're going to line this up. Push that on there. Let's see, I don't want to go too far on, do I? Further on I go, the more strength I'm going to have. Let's see. Make sure I'm not going to short out on anything. That actually looks pretty good. The other side here. Yeah, I think I'm I think I'm good. There it is. Yeah, I could potentially short out on the back side here. There's some holes that come through. If I push it all the way on, I could potentially have a short, so I'm going to leave it a little further back where that's not going to happen. Let's see here. Oh, that you can see that better now. So probably about there. That lines up really well. That all looks good. This fits on pretty tightly, so there's really no need in holding it when you're soldering it. Okay. I think I'm going to start on the front side here. I have to adjust my light. And of course all the basset hounds are wanting to help. There. Okay. Make sure I'm fairly square. I'm going to take my time and let the solder flow on there. Try to get it as even as I can. The customer who is having me do this, he's been running a dual setup. You can switch boards from Asteroids to Asteroids Deluxe. I guess the adapter on the Asteroids board flips the rotate buttons somehow. Okay. That looks pretty good. Let me do the other side here. I'm in a good position there. Sorry, that one looks a little messy. That's my pen that was bad. I want to make sure I'm connected there. Okay. There we go. There's the other side. So let's take it out to the machine and try it out. Alright, so we got this all plugged in. I've got my scope set up here where I can read my X and Y output here. Flip it on, try it out. Got my X waveform. It looks a little big, so that's good. My Y, I've got that there. Oh, and we've got a picture. Yeah, it does look a little large here, so let me get this pulled in there. Actually, let me go to oh, I don't see a switch test on here. Okay. Just do it this way here. that rolling hum bar you see here in the screen, that's only coming through on the camera. So that's great. So this was a good fix for this board. Let's see if I can clean this up. Press start. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay. All right. So there you go. Let's check real quickly here our voltage, or 5 volts. My meter setting. 5.1, 5.09. I'm going to go back on the sense side and read on my power supply here. Pin 3. Wow, it's pretty close, 5.12. So I would be willing to bet if we read our resistances through the harness here, it would be better because of this connector. All right, well, thanks for joining us here at the old arcade, and we'll see you next time.